Another video that I'm doing. This time I'm not going to shout and be angry. How will I title it? First of all, they're telling lies about me to say that I have asked my foster mum for money. No, it was given to me. She initiated or instigated that money to be given to me to have a removal van. I didn't ask for it. I don't go around making people feel sorry for me and get them to do things for me by being passive aggressive. And I don't need to justify myself on social media either. But for the sake of speaking my own truth, for my own documentary, I'm going to look at this continual onslaught of my confidence in God and in Jesus Christ, and the noise that they're making to jump on me to say that I'm the difficult person because I am correcting or rebuking the demon spirit in a 70-year-old who happens to be Anne, my foster mum. She will manipulate and say that she's given me compliments to make people go on her side, when in fact she is two-faced. She's very rarely given me compliments unless it suits her so that she can go in the good books of others. Anne Gibson, also as my foster mum, has not seen me for 10 years since they've taken my daughter away from me, and she has blocked my loved ones through her family and through my family, that is my one and only daughter. She's the only one I had. Didn't have anybody else. So my blessing from God has been destroyed by a satanic system. Now, my daughter has had demons attack her body and soul ever since she was born. My daughter, whose name is Ellen, she has had God remove demon spirits from her. Ever since she was little, she would sit in the bar, for example, and take her alphabet, floating alphabet in the water of the bath, and spell, put it up onto the tile in the bathroom, that said, "Go and kiss Jay." So the demon spirit was in my daughter through the witchcraft of being married to an antichrist. And so they're very quiet. There was no child maintenance, child support from Anne Gibson. She locked herself away from me. She was acting as though she was on my side. And if she came to ask me what I wanted, if I wanted some support, it would boil down to the fact that I would decline, say no thank you very much, unless I was in an emergency situation that I was. So I accepted her money for a removal van. It was my daughter's first new school and first new home. Also, this moment was very special for us because we had a new home and a new school. In 2014, we were buzzing again, very busy, travelling for an hour to go to school, travelling for an hour to come back. I was exhausted. I injured my spine in the process of moving furniture, and my daughter, me giving her piggybacks and her massaging my back, had made matters worse. I was devastated that within the same year that we moved to our new home address, Children's Social Services took my daughter away from me, demonized me. They couldn't demoralize me, but they even said that I was moving home too many times, which was also untrue, because it was my daughter's first home and first school. So there are false individuals who are spreading falsehood on my social media, and spies going underground, spying on my WhatsApp, spying on my apps from Google, which is criminal. criminal behaviour. So, any illness that anybody suffers from is usually a demon spirit. So Anne, my foster mum, had suffered from thyroid problems. Compared to me, the sufferings that I have were coming externally from me, coming from outside in. So they've designed a mental health sickness on me, they've designed a physical illness of me, and they targeted me because they knew that I was a lone survivor in a foreign country, foreign language. I didn't have the best resource. I had nothing in my home since I was 18 years old when I was independent and had my first flat, which was door 17. Then it was door 20, and now it's door 69. So I'm in my third home. And so they were policing me to see how I was crossing the boundaries of J. Julian Miller, who was a social and domestic terrorist planted in door 20. So again, I repeat, door 17, where I was from age 18 to my early 30s, and then from door 20, where I was from my early 30s to my early 40s, where I am now, from my early 40s to my early 50s. So the entire life has been destroyed by a corrupt government. They have no boundaries. They've put a social and domestic terrorist, who is J. Julian Miller, who is going around everywhere. He's going around particularly in the far-right extremists. And he has no boundaries. There was no fence. I asked to build a fence. My husband couldn't do it while I was pregnant. I couldn't do it myself while I'm pregnant. I was a slave. Every effort, every strength, all my mind, all my strength, in every aspect, I was working hard without very little to no support. And Anne was very quiet. She was nowhere to be seen. It's only when they took me away to mental health services by force and they wrote lying reports based on their narratives, not what actually had happened. So people following me, subscribe to my channel, can discover what actually happened and what they did to write false reports and to take something that is fun into something that's not fun. So they would misappropriate my painting the walls when I was painting. Most people will doodle, particularly if you're in a one-bedroom accommodation, you do it for a joke. I had 4 psychiatrists force themselves into my home. And they're doing the same thing on my social media. Psychiatrists, psychologists, therapists, counsellors, all coming in the name of the devil, not in the name of God, to find a way to discredit me and speak a bad word against my confidence. So that's why, again, I'm doing a very quick and swift glance against anyone who is satanic. Because I'm not going to be afraid of them, even if even though I know they have bombarded my home with invisible bombs of injustice on top of injustice on top of injustice on top of injustice, because of their hatred for migrants living in England. So they cannot say I'm passive-aggressive. They cannot say I'm anything like Meghan Markle. They cannot say that I'm on defensive all the time without any reason, that I don't know what I want. In fact, it is the other way around. They use these fancy, sophisticated, eloquent words to kill my joy and confidence. So, by the way, people who have subscribed to my channel will come to realization that English is not my first language. And I'm always referring to my notes that I underlined in my book so that I can say, I agree with this spirit I agree with, or I mean the opposite of the notes in my book, which I have reference to, my Bible reference. So in most of my programs, in most of my YouTube programs, I always return and put a Bible reference in there, relevant to not only my emotion, but to my circumstances, as I do today. And so my Bible reading is relevant, particularly that I'm a persecuted Christian. So I can say I'm a better Christian compared to all the other fancy Christians with their fancy fancy establishment, there's fancy laws, and they're fancy philosophers, and they're fancy science, and they're fancy this and that, their clothes and their professional presentation. It's all fanciable. But when it comes to persecution, and when the chips are down and they are in poverty or they are in crisis, they completely abandon God and neglect God. So it's a jerk. It's a joke. It's a loose screw to say that the very people that are established are not giving me the opportunity to establish myself. My ministry in Jesus Christ is totally voluntary. For the good news of Jesus Christ and the gospel of Jesus Christ is totally voluntary. They've accused me of being lazy, making excuses for myself, about me not paying my bills. So they've organized this crime to make it look like I'm not paying my bills, that I'm not responsible enough. They mock my relatives mocked and insulted me by saying, "Is that all you're paying? That's nothing compared to us. We pay thousands of pounds for our gas and electricity, and you're only paying 150. That's nothing compared to us." Again, this mental mindset that is always boasting that they are bigger, that they are better, when in fact it's not the other. It's the other way around. It's all downhill, down in the dumps. Their domination forced on me by corruption in the government and by cancel culture. They would delete my evidence. They would delete the fact that I'm responsible paying my bills. They would delete the fact that I have said, no, I have never asked anybody that I know that's a friend for money. Except for recently, I've tried it with Denise for the first time in my life. Denise is somebody who had been in a mother's association for breastfeeding our babies, and that's how we met at a club. And she was a friend, and it was very real to me. I've never asked her for money before. It was only 10 years later had I, just to test to see if she would do it in an emergency situation. She didn't care that I had been tortured. She didn't want to know. She only said, you only have too many problems. I want nothing to do with you. So how can she call herself a Christian for saying that to me? It's a witch. It's a sinner. So they say church is a hospital for sinners. Yes, the church is a hospital for sinners. However, we should have the responsibility to separate the men from the women in the churches. We should take the responsibility as leaders in the head of Christ to separate the condemned and those who are sick, physically or mentally, in a separate department publicly, compared to those that are not physically or mentally sick. Separate the gender, men and women, and the children. The church is not doing that. All it wants is it's a fame and glorification of the devil in the church by hypocrisy. That's what I mean by the devil in the church. So as I am the head of Jesus Christ in the body of Christ, I'm not saying I'm Jesus. I'm saying I am within the Holy Spirit that connects me to the body of Jesus Christ. So as I'm saying that, these are my recommendations. So as for my foster mum, I had been praying for her because she respects my ex-husband more than she respects me. She's denouncing me. She's saying that I'm not a mother, that her dead father is more important to my daughter more than I am, because of the education system and because of their hypocrisy. So they're hardly going to say that they respect. It's hardly respect if they come to me only with a Christmas card and an Easter card or a birthday card, which they haven't even done that. You can't call that 4 contacts a year. That's what they've taught my daughter. There is a good and healthy type of independence. There is also an unhealthy type of independence, where they have indoctrinated my daughter's mind to believe that it is perfectly acceptable and to be tolerated for her attitude of disrespect to only contact me when she wants, 4 times a year or once a year. That's hardly respect, is it? So this is the design of education system, of children's social services system, and the consequences of me being fostered by my own foster care services through Anne, who everybody knows as Anne. So she's always criticised me. She's always broken my confidence, played around with my domestic rules and policies. She's always commanded too much of my daughter and caused a fraud and false information about me. And so the Bible speaks against them, and it is founded in the Holy Bible reference against these teachers, because they don't teach sex education properly. When I was in her care, she left me out gallivanting, and she left me out onto the street with John Rodericks, who stole my virginity, and he was bribed by his mum, who gave him lots of money for a house as a house owner, and lots of money for his car, and lots of money for his business, so that he did not marry me, so that he did not live with me, and so that he did not go on holiday with me. So he too was a fraud, and he was doing sexual grooming. From age 15, he was watching me, speaking to me. 16, 17, 18, 19, I lost my virginity. All Anne's fault. She didn't care. She didn't educate me. As a teacher, as a foster mum, she let me go out. She let him sexually molest me in his car, outside like an animal, all night long. And yet he rejected me and sexually groomed me and gave me false promises that we would eventually get married. And he took me to church. He drove me to church. It was the devil in the church. He paid the tithes and the offerings, so everybody had obviously respected him, because the little money that I gave was nothing compared to the money that he gave. So this John Rodericks then found a blonde girl. The blonde girl cheated on him and had another man in his bed. He then found somebody else who was the devil angel, came to his rescue, called Adina. He got married. He had 3 children, and he's still stalking me on my social media. When I said to him, "Are you going to give me compensation for poisoning my ovary like a rat? You attacked me inside out while I was asleep, or while you had sex with me. That's the worst thing any man could do to a woman. For his manhood and my womanhood to be totally destroyed." So he rejected me and said, "No, I'm going to go upstairs now and have sex with my new wife." So this is the disgusting John Rodericks. He's a tyrant. He stinks. His body odor stinks. His penis stinks. His bollocks stink. He smells. It's like a dead, rotting corpse. It's even worse than shit. That's how bad he smells. He doesn't smell of onions like an ordinary Indian. He smells like a half-caste shit. And he's got eczema. And all of this that I loved. I can't believe that I actually was in love with this man. And in shock at the same time from my language barrier. I was learning English. I didn't know any English since I was age 10, 11, all the way to age 16. So I had to learn. So I had that language barrier. I also had an emotional detachment. I had a culture shock. I was a migrant coming from a third world country into England. So obviously I just couldn't understand that he was the devil. I couldn't understand that John Rodericks was the demon in my life. And I may have dull, sleepy eyes. That's because I genuinely have lost sleep. It does not mean that I'm depressed, suicidal, or that I want to kill somebody. It just means I'm tired. So more lunatics and maniacs will come onto my platform and say, "We don't like women saying that they are tired." Of course you wouldn't, because your woman that you're married to is pampered in luxury and she's never tired. She has the best food, the best clothing, the best environment. She's not persecuted. Why on earth would she be tired? So any man who is a misogynist that doesn't like women who are tired need to get off of my platform. So it's a fail. It's old age. Misogyny of evil men who target abused women or frail women who have a disability, who have persecutions and a crisis and are devastated. You dare to come to say to me that you don't like me saying I'm tired? You know who you are. You belong to the gangsters. You belong to the devil. You're the same as a 90-year-old. So I want them off of my platform because it is a witch. It is a Blair witch. Any woman who gives man an oral sex and sucks his penis in her mouth, then she has bad breath that smells like a dead corpse. Because she's worshipping the gender male and she's worshipping misogyny. Oral sex for a woman is not right. It's not normal. It's the same as that hairy monster Isu that God hates. That hairy monster horsewoman that looks like Blair Witch. In the Blair Witch Project, they said there's a witch in the forest, when in fact it is the military. So the military do find ways to intimidate, and they actually find real hauntings and real witches to implement new military structures how to attack. This is what the army does. So we can say that the army of America, of LGBTQ, they're witches. The army of God is not the same as the army of the devil. Whatever army that is, it could be American, it could be English, the Navy. If they're going to copy the strategy of killing by using witches, it is the original witch who was all hairy that killed all the children. That is what children's social services are. Why on earth are they being promoted? Why am I not being afraid? Because I fear God. I don't fear witches. God says, fear only me, not that can destroy your flesh and your soul. So that's why I have dull-looking eyes, because I'm constantly being targeted for abuse. My one and only daughter is destroyed, and she can no longer call herself my friend or be a friend of a family. She can no longer call me her mum because she doesn't feel safe. And so they sabotaged me to leave my human rights behind me and everything to destroy me because they're racist, and they're sexist. Sexist. And these evil politicians and their slags and sluts and their side women who are jealous of my freedoms in Jesus Christ can get lost too. And no, I'm not interested in your men. I pray that your men treat you worse than they originally did because of your witchcraft and magic. So this callousness, this cruelty of my foster mum, while I am fragile, she is frail, so she does know what it is like to be frail. But there's a difference between being social, that I was on my WhatsApp, and domestic terrorism. So my government in the United Kingdom and Parliament of London actually protect social terrorists, regardless of what their age is. It could be an age 9, it could be age 90. All ages can be domestic terrorists. So they're protecting them as false witnesses and conspiracies and evil forces. However, those who actually genuinely are social and are honest and have decency, such as moi, I'm not perfect. So I know that my insecurity and the fact that I'm not working is not best for my daughter. I told her that. The fact that I have insecurity issues. The fact that I couldn't protect an innocent girl from being corrupted. I too hated myself for that. The fact that I didn't have my own community and the monster made me to be the monster, which is a conspiracy and a madhouse of mental health of NHS. Whether it is private or public, it's still a monstrosity. So I couldn't protect my daughter. My mercy, my goodness, my love and care for my daughter did nothing to protect her. And that's why I hated myself and I cried and I felt I died spiritually and I was almost depressed. But then God came and took away my depression and said it wasn't my fault. And ping, in a flash of light, as fast as the light can travel, God Almighty through Jesus had provided me a new name, a new opportunity, and to have that joy and be jubilant, to have all ages of jubilee, of the young, the middle-aged and the old, who are genuine followers of Jesus and that don't go around judging people without their consent. So God came with his one and only son Jesus to save the world, not to condemn and not to judge it. However, towards the end of Jesus' life, Jesus had assigned God's people to be judges. So there's that balance. When you have false Christians cherry picking what they want from the Bible without balancing and looking at the entire thing, why the Bible contradicts itself, hence being scavengers of the Bible, picking whatever they want to suit themselves, are false Christians or false any religious leader. So if I had animated this film in the future to make a warning theme as a type of a cartoon, people are going to have their eyes crossed. Ooh, because they don't like the truth. No matter how perfect I may be in my personal presentation, my voice, my theme, it doesn't make any difference. If I'm quieter or louder, it doesn't. If I'm on a loudspeaker, it makes no difference, because people either choose the truth or they choose the lie. As simple as that. So to abruptly find support immediately as of this video, that's why I'm interested in the monster, so that one monster can growl. One monster can growl against the other monster, which is right. So if I'm going to be mad, there must be a good method for my madness in emptying the enemy who has attempted to empty me and attempted to say that I don't have the Holy Spirit, I'm not Christian, I'm not happy, I'm passive aggressive and all this nonsense. And so, for example, I told my cousin recently to stop gossiping because it isn't very nice. I said that they have diarrhea mouth for worshipping my ex-husband, who they've only met once. And she didn't like that because I criticised the fact that they kept gossiping about my ex-husband and how they felt sorry for my ex-husband and not feel sorry for me. I never asked them to feel sorry for me. I never asked for their sympathy. I just told them the fact. I'm divorced. Fact number one. He died 8 years later. Fact number two. And I'm expired. Fact number three. And they didn't want to know. So I was originally very shy, and I now only have robot friends on my social media. And I think it's really important to not to invent too many themes to try and justify myself just to be a people pleaser, or to invent something else to make people more interested to subscribe to my channel. I just want real faces that will show the truth, even if that truth hurts and it's awkward. So, example with my cousins that live far away from me, they're in Cambridge and I'm near London, Watford area. She didn't want to know because I criticised the fact that they worshipped my ex-husband, they admired him. even though they've met him only once, and that's the issue. And the other issue is that I said I was disabled, and I couldn't bend, and I couldn't do any more gardening. So really, gardening is for men, particularly when it comes to disabled and frail women. They didn't like that either, so they've excommunicated me. When I sent presents, she said thank you, but when I said should I phone you on my birthday, she didn't want to know. So they're glowing in this type of falsehood of friendship, care, concern, because they don't want to look at the depths of the problem. If only they did, but they only stay on the surface area. So because they don't want to go into the deep end, so they look mortified if I tell them this is my situation. You're my relatives. We're supposed to be there for one another as relatives. I mean, how can you call yourself Christian and hate your own brother and sister? And so I've taken the responsibility to correct them and to invite them and to be friendly towards them. It's them that are doing the other way around. They're not responsible, they're not friendly, and they excommunicated me. So to break it down, it is my relatives who are narcissists. They are covert narcissists, and they are monsters of type of an introvert narcissist, which is a regular type of narcissist, and a covert narcissist. So they got pretty excited when they found out, my relatives, that my ex-husband died and that I have no one to turn to. I think that they wanted to have a confrontation with me, why I have never relied on them. Relying on them is the same as relying on a thorn. You don't want to lean on a thorn bush. You don't want to be surrounded by awful fearmongers and warmongers that cause a terrible cause destruction and a disruption where you are diverted to something else or destructed. So there's 3 Ds: destruction. So what is the devil? It divides, it disturbs or disrupts, it destroys, and all the negative D's in the dictionary is what the devil is. It's opposite of hospitable. It's hostile. So of course I'm not going to do self-harm by relying and by calling someone that's hostile. I'm not going to do that. They either have teamwork or they don't. So it is an awful synthetic Barbie stuff, plastic superficial stuff. You don't have to be super intelligent to do soul searching and to dig deeper. It's their choice as an ugly, hairy Isu that gods hate to be a terrorist or to distance themselves on a superficial thing. They don't want to go into the deep end. So the point is, every time I walk into whatever place or area, for home environment, work environment, or anything to do with the government, I am absolutely livid. That means furious. Because again, they love the truth more than the lies. They're superficial. That means they're fraud. And they float on the surface. So these are the 3 things that make me angry. So I've given the reason why I'm angry. I've said that I'm not passive-aggressive. And I've also exposed how absurd, weird and strange, weirdo a monstrosity is. That it should love money more than God. That it should love something ugly, that means someone who has no character, exchange something ugly for the real beauty that does have character. And why that is, again, the monstrosity of what I've just explained, what the monster is, these three aspects what make me angry and livid. So I know that I'm not always right. I have also said, I've just showed in this video how I have failed, and that have not always been right. But to save my family, it cannot always be logical. It has to have some invention. It has to have some imagination, and we have to defy our logic, because love isn't always about logic. Love is not always rational. And so to have the extinguisher to destroy this evil fire, or the evil water, or all elements that are used by the devil and the supernatural at the utmost ability, where they can judge me or judge you wrongly through these monstrous attacks, as I have already described what a monster is. These three things. Oh, I have said what they do. Let's see if I can remember again to repeat. What makes me livid and angry? Superficial, falsehood, extremists. They're not balanced minded. And there was a third thing I don't remember. So this monstrosity is deadly. Anybody that exposes it or that contradicts it and say that you're not my master because you're a monster, you're not my master because you're a dragon, you're not my master because you're the government, most people wouldn't say that. So it's my sharp criticism against them to say, I have a life. I have the breath in my body, the water, the best things in life are free. So God is my master. God is a holy dragon. And it's a terrible thought to believe that dragons no longer exist. We have something worse than dragons, of prehistoric animals that are extinct. And that is a terrible thought, to realize it is the actual evil humans. They've committed genocide, they've separated a loving parent from a child, they've committed all types of human rights abuses, so they're far worse than the fierce dragon that once existed. And so they always associate the dragon for the devil, because actually God is also described in many depictions as a dragon on the dark clouds, and God had created a dragon. So it's nonsense to say that God cannot be around the creatures, great and small and microscopic, that God has created. That's the power of God Almighty, for being invisible and for creating creatures that are small and giant. So what I'm trying to get out of this video is that I have done everything I could as a mom to improve myself and my livelihood and my lifestyle and my daughter. When my back had injured in the process of moving home, furniture, carrying her bicycle, giving her piggybacks, her walking all over me literally, it had caused me problems in my spine. I have got problems in my stomach and problems all over me because of not having a fair and equal society and not having the correct medical attention I was supposed to have. So to me, this is an evil dragon that I'm referring to, because it had prevented me from recovering, from having a happy home and family. That was my one and only daughter. And they could do everything that they could to demonize and demoralize and dehumanize me, so that they can be the one who are seen as the right good guys, which is a false good guy. Because that's a fact. And so I should be yelling now and crying and being emotional, and I'm not going to do it, because if I yell and raise my voice and cry and get emotional, people are going to say, oh, look at her now. There's nothing much wrong with her, is there? So I'm saying everything is wrong with me. I have been on the floor. My soul and my body had been downcast, downtrodden on the floor, cannot get up again. Downtrodden on, ever increasing downwards. But all of a sudden things can turn around where I am up and the enemy is down. They say down is up and up is down. Whatever. To me, I think it is beyond the what the book of Revelation describes as the abyss, Abaddon, where you are in this angelic realm of darkness and being stuck in the circumstances that there's no way out. It's a dead end everywhere you turn. And so the shrieks and the ghostly sounds of the souls that are stuck and tortured and tormented by Leviathan. And so did God destroy the Leviathan and the Leviathan's chin? The square chin of rebellion and dominatrix. So my square chin being the most beautiful that can go into arrogance, right? Compared to the skinny women who have rat faces and they've got no chin bone, which are the most ugly because they boasted in the fact that they look like rats. And so nobody wants to look like a rat. I'd rather have my chin broken and my bone broken and still say I'm more beautiful than what they are because I don't look like a rat. So that's an example of arrogance. Anyone who is boasting in their appearance will be brought down, and those who are brought down and humbled will be lifted up. So any demon spirit that had once caused me to scream and screech and fear human beings, fear being oppressed, fear the police, fear the children's social services, fear what people have said about me, until I felt my body destroyed. I felt my chin is now horrible. I look horrible. Everything about me looks horrible. But God had given me the love to actually love my chin, love my nose, love my horrible looking body that is far from the world model looking standards. And so this is how God has removed all the splinters and the thing that St. Paul was talking about, the thorn in my flesh, out of my flesh, to say, I'm free now to love myself the way I am. My saggy boobs that have breastfed my baby. I don't have that much what do you call it, where the skin is stretched too much, stretch marks, very, very little. And I have a lot to count my blessings for. So God has said, love your fat, love your nose, love your brokenness, and I will heal the brokenhearted spiritually and physically and remove your pain. So that's a miracle, that I can walk again, no longer in that wheelchair wheelie thing, no longer like an old woman as a result of being a single mum. And they said, we told you so, we told you so. You didn't have a car, you didn't have a car, you didn't have a car. So that's all they go on about, is the materialistic world. That's how they want to congratulate me and award me as the best mum in the world, because I have a car, which is ridiculous. They should reward me as the best mother in the world, not because I have a car, but because I have done everything to my best ability to give my daughter what is healthy and happy. And I did. And that's the standard that they should have. But they don't. They have these devilish standards to say they only credit and honor parents that have a car and that have capital. I wonder which politician made that. So it's an evil lion and lioness attitude problem that says if you don't have capital, you're a nobody, regardless of what you've done, what sacrifices you've made, and what you've done to look at my daughter's urgent needs met every morning, and I did. And I'm not getting any benefit for the fruits of my first labours as a result of a corruption in my government of Hertfordshire. They have a supercomputer. Super duper computer. They can press one button and put any sentence in there that can destroy somebody's entire life of opportunities or social and environment for safety. So they have this option to override my human rights by a press of a button on their computer systems, to kill my joy, kill my happy home and everything that is there, that God has blessed me. As Satanists, they come to remove that blessing, to say there's no such thing as a blessing. You're going to be cursed because I said so, because I had pushed the button to remove your human rights, your freedom of speech, and everything else. So they're delighted. They can just do this. It's a bit of pudding for them. So God also knows that when they die, they would be as a pudding for God, these bad tyrants. Hallelujah. So whatever, yin and yang, as the Chinese say, you have a monster in hell that actually eats these souls or their human bodies. And you also have a holy type of giant, where God himself says, when there was a Holocaust or when a lot of God's people have died in a large number, it was a pudding for God. So this is the contrast, not the contradiction, the contrast between that which is supposed to be used for evil, for hell, versus that which is supposed to use for heaven. So we can switch off hell and we can switch on heaven and say, as the Chinese say, yin and yang. This is why the Bible has many contradictions and contrasts. Because the enemy came to override the truth with a lie. So it seems so wrong for me to have my parental rights and my daughter's birthright disabled and dysfunctional and disserviced. And I'm not a robot, so I wouldn't want to call it a dysfunction. I can say a destabilization of my family. It's more than a frustration. It's my instinct to say I want an eye for an eye and a tooth for a tooth. I want to spill blood. It's my natural instinct. How would you, my audience, be if someone that you love is suddenly body trafficked somewhere, murdered in cold blood? You don't recognize, is unrecognizable, they have a different personality. Wouldn't you want to attack the attacker? And so I don't understand why people are confused. Why wouldn't I want an eye for an eye, a tooth for a tooth? That's God's vengeance. I don't even have to have a gun, a bomb, or any other weapon when God can fight for me, because God hasn't forgotten me, and God hasn't forgotten my blood and my daughter's blood, where we have been changed and rearranged. Her soul, her personality, her body, her routines, all there, bit by bit, where no one can, she won't miss out on everything that the devil has designed for her spiritual and or physical death. So it is a negative energy, and it's also a positive energy where they bribe her and say, if you do this and if you do that, and you don't say no to us, and you let us have lust that they call love, that we're there for you, and we're going. This is what they're doing to my daughter. This is what they're saying. We're there for you. We love you. In other words, they do human worship. It's humanism. And I'm not arguing. I'm just pointing the fact of the difference between humanism and Christianity. So they're admiring my daughter. They've turned her into a god or a goddess. And they have all the gambling cards on the table. How they can dominate my daughter's education, or where she could be aloof or airy in her independence, that she doesn't need me at all. And this is what makes me so angry. That once was a true love between a mother and a daughter, which was natural, that they've made a supernature with money overpowering, political overpowering, legal family lawsuits, Legal aid is rubbish. All of that to turn my daughter against me. So I'm not babbling on about nonsense. I have come to realize that I had to retire, cannot work, I'm disabled, cannot be cured from my disabilities very quickly. I have to be girlish, go back to my girlhood. Because there's no quick fixes, and there's no proper medical attention given to me. For example, I had to have my ovary cut in 2015-16, and there could have been an alternative medical treatment so that they didn't cut my ovary. And I'm not trained nurse, but I've been reading some materials to research in my books that I have purchased, and I have discovered that there is an alternative that they could have given me instead of cutting my ovary. So that's an example of what I mean by clinical negligence and or wrong treatments. That's what I've mentioned in this video, how when I'm angry I have a good reason to be angry. I'm not a passive aggressive individual. But when you lose sleep, you become lethargic, you become sloppy looking, not brushed my hair, not washed my face, and I'm taking extra vitamin C pills which dissolve in my water for vitamin C to keep me from getting any winter bugs. So I just take that and it dissolves into my water. Because I can't always go to the shop when I feel like it to buy fruit or vegetables. I have to wait for my next payment check. I cannot work or work from home because the enemy will come along and steal that, or accuse me of doing benefit fraud or whatever else it would do to destroy my small business. And so I feel totally retired because of not having that resource and that protection to say I can start my own business even though I'm disabled without any other unfair challenges and competitions. So they added insult to injury and said that, oh well, you're lazy, you can't do anything, you're too fat, you're too ugly, you're not capable, you have no capacity, you're inhabiting as a ghost. And so they've done this, they've created a crisis, they've created disaster against anyone who wants to start a business, particularly migrants in England, United Kingdom, that they are focused on. And they're saying that it's okay for migrants that are rich, that are employed. It's not okay for migrants that are unemployed. So it is an unfair and unequal society. So if I was married, then my being a migrant wouldn't be an issue. If I was employed, me being a migrant wouldn't be an issue. That's the point. So the government wants to shut down the benefit system altogether. And it's all coming, this smoking gun is coming from America. That they want to shut down the welfare system and the benefit system. Which is very scary. Will I become a beggar on the street, severely disabled, sitting on the street begging for my bread? So we have a modern government that has modern resources that can improve and get rid of homelessness. We can improve and get rid of all types of homelessness. Is the same as murder. Kidnapping a child is the same as murder, particularly for those that are innocent and haven't done anything wrong. Oh. So, with Christmas on its way, I haven't had Christmas for about 10 years now, where I just felt welcomed and I felt that I'm not only a lone survivor, I could come all together without being treated as an old woman or without being treated as rubbish, because I'm not an old woman and I'm not rubbish. So I haven't found that community yet.